Lyra lay still on the rough, hot ground of the desert planet. The sky above her was wide and empty, colored a dull yellow with only a few small clouds. She tried not to move, because every time she did, sharp pain shot up from her wounded leg. The air was dry and her throat was too. She wanted to call for help, but there was nobody left to hear her. Her own family had left her behind that morning. They were afraid not of the wild animals or the heat, but of looking weak. Lyra's people believed that anyone who could not walk or fight did not deserve to stay with the group. They had whispered apologies and left her a small bottle of water and a piece of stale bread. Then they walked away, their shapes shrinking into the dust, not once looking back. Lyra watched them go until her eyes hurt. She thought about crawling after them, but her leg was broken and she could not stand. Above her, large black birds circled. Their wings made dark shadows on the ground, moving around her like slow dancers. Lyra knew what they were waiting for. She remembered the stories her mother used to tell her as a child, stories about desert vultures. The vultures did not care if someone was a hero or a child or a weakling. They only waited for bodies that could no longer move. For a long time, Lyra did nothing. The sun burned her skin, and every breath felt dry and heavy. Her mind wandered. She thought about her old home, about her parents, about the games she used to play with her brothers and sisters. She wondered if anyone missed her or if they would forget her quickly. She was only 19, not yet grown in the eyes of her people. But now she felt older than anyone. The wind changed, and Lyra heard a sound she did not expect. It was the low hum of a ship, cutting through the silence of the desert. At first, she thought she was dreaming. The hum grew louder, and she squinted up at the sky. A small ship, shiny and gray, landed not far from where she lay. Dust rose up, making it hard to see, but Lyra did not look away. She was too weak to move, but her eyes stayed wide open. The ship's door slid open and a human stepped out. Lyra had seen humans before, but only from a distance. They were taller than her people, with broad shoulders and faces that were hard to read. This human wore simple clothes and a wide hat to block the sun. He looked around, cautious, his hand resting on something at his belt. After a moment, his eyes landed on Lyra. Lyra felt fear twist inside her. She tried to pull herself up, but her body would not listen. The pain in her leg was too great. The human saw her struggling and began to walk toward her. His steps were slow, careful, as if he did not want to scare her more. He stopped a few steps away. Lyra could smell something clean and strange coming from him, not like the dust and sweat of her family. He crouched down and spoke softly. "Hey there, can you hear me?" Lyra stared at him, unsure if she should answer. Her people said humans were not to be trusted. Some said they were dangerous, others said they could be kind. She could not tell which one this was. The human reached into his bag and took out a small bottle of water. He held it out to her. Lyra looked at the bottle, then at the human's face. He did not look angry. He did not look like he wanted to hurt her. Carefully, Lyra took the bottle from his hand and drank. The water was cool and fresh. She drank too quickly, and some of it spilled down her chin. The human smiled a little. "Easy, there's more if you need it." Lyra was too tired to speak, but she nodded. She felt her fear begin to melt away, replaced by a new feeling she did not understand. She watched as the human took a small device from his pocket and scanned her injured leg. The device beeped and showed a red light. The human frowned. "That looks bad." "You're lucky I landed here," he said. Lyra wanted to ask why he was here, but her voice was just a whisper. "Why did you stop?" The human sat down beside her. "My name is Scott. I'm an explorer. I look for things most people don't care about. I was checking my maps when I saw something on my scanner. It was you." Lyra looked away. She did not want to cry in front of a stranger, but she felt the tears anyway. "My family left me," she said, so quietly she was not sure if he heard. Scott nodded. He did not ask why. Instead, he opened a box and took out some bandages and medicine. He began to clean her wound, working slowly and gently. It hurt, but not as much as before. "I know what it's like to be alone," Scott said. "But you're not alone now." Lyra closed her eyes. She listened to the sound of his voice and the soft touch of his hands as he worked. The sun began to fall behind the hills, and the desert grew cooler. The vultures above flew away, searching for something else. For the first time that day, Lyra felt safe. She did not know what would happen next, but she knew she was not alone. As the stars began to appear in the sky, Scott finished bandaging her leg. "We should get you inside my ship," he said. "You need to rest." Lyra tried to stand, but Scott gently lifted her up. He was strong, but careful not to hurt her more. She leaned against him and let him carry her to the ship. The door closed behind them, shutting out the desert and the memories of being left behind. Inside the ship, the air was cool, and there was a soft bed for her to rest on. Scott brought her more water and some food that tasted strange but good. Lyra ate slowly, feeling her strength return little by little. Scott sat nearby, checking his maps and making notes. Lyra watched him, feeling both thankful and confused. She had never met anyone like him before. She wondered if all humans were like this, or if Scott was different. As she drifted to sleep, Lyra thought about her family, the desert, and the human who had saved her. She did not know what tomorrow would bring, but for now, she felt hope. Lyra woke slowly. She opened her eyes and saw the inside of the human's ship. The ceiling was low, and the lights were soft. There was a gentle hum that made her feel calm. She did not feel the burning sun or the wind anymore. For a few moments, she was not sure where she was. Then she remembered the desert, her family leaving her, and the human who had carried her here. She tried to sit up and felt a dull pain in her leg. She looked down and saw that her leg was wrapped neatly in bandages. The wound was clean and cool. There was a pillow under her head and a thin blanket over her. Lyra was surprised by the comfort. She had never slept on anything so soft before. The room was small, with only a chair, a table, and some boxes stacked against the walls. On the table, there was a cup of water and a bowl with some strange-looking food. Lyra took the cup and sipped the water. It tasted fresh and helped her throat. She was still hungry, so she picked up a piece of food. It was soft and sweet, nothing like the dry bread her family had left her. She finished the bowl quickly. Scott entered the room quietly. He saw Lyra awake and smiled. "Good morning," he said. "You slept for a long time. How are you feeling?" Lyra nodded. "Better," she said, her voice still soft. "Thank you." Scott pulled a chair close to her bed and sat down. He looked at her leg and checked the bandage. "The wound is healing," he said. "You were lucky. If I had not found you, things could have been worse." Lyra looked down, feeling shy. "Why did you help me?" she asked. Scott thought for a moment before answering. "I saw you in trouble. I could not just leave you there. Where I come from, we try to help each other. It does not matter if you are different. Everyone deserves a chance." Lyra listened to him and felt confused. In her world, only the strong were worth saving. She wanted to believe Scott, but it was hard to forget what her family had done. She remembered their faces as they left her behind, pretending not to hear her cries. Scott saw the sadness in her eyes. He wanted to make her feel safe. He stood up and brought over a small bag. "I have some things for you," he said. He pulled out a simple shirt and some pants. "These might fit you better than what you're wearing." Lyra took the clothes and smiled a little. Her own dress was torn and covered in dust. She changed quickly and felt cleaner. The clothes were big but soft and warm. Scott went to the control panel and started checking his screens. Lyra watched him work. She saw lines and maps she did not understand. There were pictures of the desert, blinking lights, and words in a language she could not read. Scott pressed a button and a small window opened. Outside, Lyra saw the wide, empty desert. "Are you going somewhere?" Lyra asked, afraid he might leave her. Scott shook his head. "Not yet. I want to make sure you are strong enough to travel. After that, I can take you anywhere you want to go." Lyra was quiet. She had nowhere to go. Her family was gone, and her people would not welcome her back. She wondered if she was truly alone in the world. She felt the old fear return, but Scott's calm voice helped her. "Do you want to tell me what happened?" Scott asked gently. Lyra took a deep breath. She looked at her hands and spoke slowly. My family left me because I was weak. I hurt my leg and could not walk. They said it was better for the group if they left me. It is our way, only the strong survive. Scott listened carefully. He did not interrupt or look shocked. He just waited for her to finish. When she stopped talking, he said, That is not right. No one should be left alone like that. Lyra felt a tear on her cheek. She wiped it away quickly. She had never cried in front of anyone before, but Scott's kindness made her feel safe enough to let her guard down. Scott moved closer. You are not weak. You survived out there. That takes strength. Lyra looked at him. For the first time, she saw something in his eyes that she had never seen before. It was respect. Scott stood and went to the kitchen area. He brought back more food and some tea. They ate together in silence for a while. Lyra found she liked the food, even if it was strange. After breakfast, Scott showed Lyra around his ship. There were small rooms for sleeping, a tiny kitchen, and a room with strange machines that hummed and beeped. Scott explained what everything did. Lyra tried to remember, but there were too many new things. They reached the control room. Scott pointed at the big window. This is where I fly the ship. See those buttons? They control everything. Want to try? Lyra hesitated, but Scott smiled and helped her sit in the pilot's seat. He guided her hands to the controls. Lyra touched the buttons and laughed a little. She had never felt so much power before. Scott told her stories about Earth, his home. He spoke of green trees, blue oceans, and tall buildings that touched the sky. Lyra listened with wide eyes. She could not imagine a place so beautiful. Days passed as Lyra stayed on the ship with Scott. Her leg grew stronger, and she began to feel hope again. The pain was less, and she could walk a little with Scott's help. Each morning, Scott helped her practice moving, and each night they talked about their lives. Lyra wanted to learn more about humans. Scott told her stories about Earth, a planet far away from the desert world where she had been left. He said Earth was full of water, green forests, and many kinds of animals. Lyra could barely imagine such a place. She had only known dusty deserts and rocky hills. One day, Scott asked, What do you want to do when you get better? Lyra thought for a moment. She had no answer. Her family had rejected her, and her tribe did not want her back. She did not know where she belonged anymore. Scott smiled kindly. You can come with me? I travel many places in space. You could see new worlds and learn new things. Lyra looked out the window at the endless desert. The thought of leaving her home was scary, but staying meant loneliness. I would like that, she said quietly. Scott nodded. We will make a good team. You have strength in you. You just need to see it. Lyra felt a small spark inside her. She wanted to believe. As the days went by, Lyra learned to use the tools on the ship. Scott showed her how to fix small problems and keep the engines running. She was surprised by how much she could do. When she thought she was weak, she found new strength. One afternoon, the ship's alarm beeped loudly. Scott jumped up and ran to the control panel. We have company, he said. Lyra looked at the screen and saw a small ship approaching fast. It was not friendly. Scott grabbed a weapon and prepared to defend the ship. Lyra's heart beat fast. She was scared but also ready to help. Scott told her to stay calm and follow his lead. The other ship fired a warning shot. Scott answered back, and the two ships moved around each other in the sky. Lyra saw the pilot of the enemy ship through the window. It was a tall alien with sharp eyes. It wanted to take Scott's ship and the strange alien woman inside. Scott told Lyra to help with the shields. She pressed buttons quickly, following his instructions. The ship shook as lasers hit its armor. Suddenly, Lyra remembered something her people taught her long ago. She had a small device in her pocket, a tool for communication. She opened it and sent a message in their language. The enemy pilot stopped firing. Lyra's message said she was not a threat and asked for peace. Scott looked at her with surprise. Good thinking. The enemy ship slowed and stopped. The pilot contacted them. They talked for a while, and the enemy agreed to leave them alone. Lyra felt proud. She had helped save the ship. After the danger passed, Scott smiled at her. You are braver than you think. Lyra smiled back. She was beginning to believe him. They continued their journey. Lyra learned about the stars and planets from Scott. She also told him about her culture and traditions. They shared stories and dreams. One night, as they looked at the sky, Lyra said, "I don't miss my family anymore. I want to make a new one." Scott nodded. "Then we will make a new family together." Lyra felt happy. For the first time, she was not alone. She had a friend who cared for her. The stars shone bright above them, lighting the way to new adventures. Lyra and Scott's journey continued through space. Each day brought new sights and new lessons. Lyra learned to trust Scott more, and Scott learned to understand Lyra's quiet strength. One morning, Scott woke Lyra early. "Today we will visit a planet where many different species live," he said. "It is a place of peace and trade." Lyra was nervous but excited. She dressed in simple clothes Scott had given her and helped prepare the ship for landing. When they arrived, the planet was beautiful. The air was fresh and green trees covered the land. Strange buildings rose up, unlike anything Lyra had seen before. People of many kinds moved around the marketplaces. Some had scales, some had feathers, and some looked like humans, but all were different. Scott smiled. "This is a place where everyone is welcome." Lyra felt shy walking among the crowd. She saw children playing, merchants selling goods, and families sharing meals. It reminded her of the stories her mother once told her about her people's old home before war and hardship. As they walked, Lyra noticed a group of people whispering and pointing at her. She felt their eyes on her, full of doubt and fear. Her heart beat faster. Scott noticed too. "Ignore them," he said softly. "Not everyone understands, but you have a place here." Lyra tried to believe him. She smiled and held Scott's hand. Together, they visited shops and tried new foods. Later, they met an old woman named Myra. Myra was kind and wise. She listened to Lyra's story and nodded with understanding. "You have been through much," Myra said, "but you are strong. Remember, strength is not just in the body, it is in the heart." Lyra felt comforted by Myra's words. She realized that her pain had made her brave. Scott and Lyra stayed on the planet for several days. They learned about the cultures and made new friends. Lyra began to feel like she belonged. One evening, as the stars came out, Scott and Lyra sat together on a hill overlooking the city. "Do you miss your home?" Scott asked. Lyra looked at the lights below and then at the stars above. "I miss my old life sometimes. But I know that life is gone. I want to build a new home with people who care." Scott smiled. "We will do that together." Suddenly, a loud noise broke the quiet. A group of strangers appeared, armed and angry. They were bounty hunters looking for Lyra. Her family had sent them to bring her back, not to help her. Lyra stood up quickly, her heart pounding. Scott reached for his weapon, ready to protect her. The hunters shouted, "Return with us or face the consequences." Lyra shook her head. "I am not going back." "Not to them." Scott stepped forward. "You will not harm her." A fight began. Scott and Lyra worked as a team. Scott used his weapons and skills, while Lyra used her knowledge of the planet and her quick thinking. Though outnumbered, they managed to escape to the ship. The bounty hunters shouted threats but could not follow. Once safe inside, Lyra looked at Scott with gratitude. "Thank you for standing by me." Scott nodded. "I promised." "You are not alone." Lyra's heart felt stronger. She was no longer a weak girl left for vultures. She was a fighter, a survivor. As the ship rose into the sky, Lyra looked back at the planet and the new friends she had made. She knew the journey ahead would not be easy. But with Scott beside her, she was ready for whatever came next. Lyra and Scott flew away from the planet where the bounty hunters tried to capture her. The stars stretched out before them like a sea of light. Lyra looked at the dark space, feeling both relief and worry. She knew her family would not stop searching for her, but now she was not alone. Scott watched her quietly. "We should find a place where you can be safe," he said. "Somewhere far from those who want to hurt you," Lyra nodded. "I want that. I want a new life." They talked about their next steps. Scott showed Lyra maps of many planets. Some were peaceful, others dangerous. Together they chose a small, quiet world with forests and rivers. It was a place where many species lived in harmony. When they arrived, the air was cool and fresh. Birds sang in the trees and soft winds moved the leaves. Lyra took a deep breath and smiled for the first time in many days. Scott helped her walk down from the ship. Her leg was much better now, but she still moved slowly. Lyra felt the grass beneath her feet and looked around. It was a good place to begin again. They found a small village near a river. The people there were friendly and curious. They welcomed the strangers with warm smiles and open hearts. Lyra met a woman named Kate. Kate was kind and strong. She showed Lyra how to gather food from the forest and how to fish in the river. Lyra learned quickly and enjoyed the simple work. Scott helped repair the ship and made friends with the villagers. He liked their stories and peaceful life. Together, Scott and Lyra began to feel at home. One day, while walking near the river, Lyra saw a group of travelers arrive. Among them were people from her old tribe. They had come looking for her. Lyra's heart raced. She wanted to hide, but Scott stood by her side. Her family leader, a tall man named Joran, stepped forward. "Lyra, you must come back with us," he said. "You belong with your people." Lyra shook her head. "No, I am not the weak girl you left behind. I have found a new family." Joran's face grew angry. "You will regret this. You cannot live alone in this universe." Lyra looked at Scott, who smiled in support. "I have friends now," she said, "and a new home." The village people stood beside Lyra, showing that she was not alone. Joran and his group realized they had lost. They turned and left without another word. Lyra felt tears but also pride. She had faced her past and stood strong. That night, Lyra and Scott sat by the fire. Lyra said, "Thank you for never giving up on me." Scott smiled. "You saved yourself." "Lyra, I only helped." Lyra looked at the stars and whispered, "I am ready for whatever comes next." Scott took her hand. "We face it together." Their journey was far from over, but Lyra no longer feared the future. She had found strength, hope, and a friend who believed in her. Together they would make a new life among the stars. Lyra and Scott stayed on the small planet for many weeks. The village became their home. Every day they learned more about each other and the new world around them. Lyra's leg healed completely and she grew stronger. She laughed more and felt happy in a way she had never known before. Scott taught Lyra how to pilot the ship better. He showed her how to read the stars and use the maps to find new places. Lyra loved the feeling of flying. She felt free and alive. One evening, after a long day, they sat by the river and talked about their dreams. Lyra said, "I want to help others like me. People who are lost or hurt, no one should be left behind." Scott smiled. "You have a kind heart. Together we can make a difference." They decided to use the ship to travel and help those in need. They would find people abandoned or forgotten and give them a chance to start again. Their first mission came soon. A distress signal led them to a small moon where an alien family was trapped after a storm. Lyra and Scott landed and found the family weak and scared. They helped them repair their ship and gave them food and water. The family thanked Lyra. "You saved us," they said. Lyra smiled, feeling proud. She remembered how she had once been saved by a stranger and now could do the same for others. Word spread quickly about the human and alien who traveled together, helping those left behind. Many sought them out, hoping for a new chance. One day, a message came from Lyra's old tribe. They wanted to talk. Lyra and Scott were unsure but agreed to listen. When they met, Lyra's family looked different. They seemed tired and changed. The leader spoke softly. "We were wrong to leave you. We see now that strength is more than the body. It is courage and heart." Lyra looked at them, her eyes steady. "I forgave you long ago, but I have found my own path." Her family nodded and stepped back. They wished her well and promised to change their ways. Lyra felt peace. She had faced her past and grown beyond it. Scott took her hand. "You are stronger than anyone I know." Lyra smiled. "And I am not alone." Together they continued their journey through the stars, helping, healing, and building new families wherever they went. Lyra knew she was no longer the girl left for Vultures. She was a beacon of hope, a symbol of courage and kindness in a vast, sometimes lonely universe. And with Scott by her side, she was ready for all the adventures to come.